Hello friends, welcome back to the Craft Castle. Do you ever download or use fonts on Cricut Design Space and when you go to cut it out, they are so thin and fragile that it just starts ripping? This right here is my holographic cardstock, but even in like HTV and vinyl, have you ever used fonts that are just too thin to actually cut? So today I'm going to show you how to go from like a super thin, really fragile font to something that looks thicker and easier to cut with the Cricuts. This is the same font. It's just obviously thicker. You can see that the lines are a bit thicker in this mermaid one than this one. Before we get into that, I need your help. So going back over to the mermaid font, I'm trying to create like a birthday banner set, and I am stuck on what color to use for the backdrop of this font. So I have my holographic cardstock right here. Then I have my teal glitter cardstock. Does teal, I didn't punch out the holes all the way for all of these. So you have to envision it without that. But does teal look good? Does purple look good? Or does lavender look good? Or should I do a mix of all three? I'm working on a birthday banner. So it's gonna read happy birthday. I don't know, I'm stuck. So like, which one should I choose? Leave those in the comments, help me out because I am stuck. Okay, so let's get started. This is gonna be super simple, quick and easy. I'm not here to waste your time, so I want you to get back to creating. So if this is something that you have had issues with, you're gonna learn it real quick and easy, and then you can go on creating. Okay, so if you're in Design Space, and let's say that this is a brand new design, and we go over here into text and we put in happy birthday or anything, it doesn't matter, a number, age, whatever it is that you're writing, and we change this over, let's use that mermaid font that I found because it's the whole reason why I'm here today, right? So this is the mermaid font. Just the way it sits, it looks absolutely gorgeous. And that's what happened when I cut this out. Cut it out just the way it looked in my holographic cardstock, and it, it didn't cut good. So, which is frustrating because I actually personally prefer the thinner stuff, but the Cricut didn't want to cut it. So, we have to improvise. The next step to this, we need to make sure that if you're trying to spell something, if you're not doing like the entire alphabet and you're trying to spell happy birthday or mom, dad, it doesn't matter what it is. If you are trying to spell something, before you go on to the next step, you have to make sure that what you've spelt is spelt correctly. Because once we go to the next portion of it, you cannot change or edit the font, the new thicker font. You can go back, create a new text box, and go to square one, but you can't go and edit what we're about ready to do. So just keep that in mind for future. The other thing too is when we are doing this step, we're actually creating the offsets, and when we do that, my settings that I use for what I'm going to show you is going to be different than yours. I don't know why that is, but let's say 0.7. If we do 0.7 for me is going to look different for you. And again, I don't know why that is, just it is. You're going to have to play around with your numbers in your design space when you are doing your offsets. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so making sure that everything is spelt correctly. I'm going to just blow this up a little bit. The easiest and quickest way to do this is having everything selected. We're going to come over here into offset. And do you see this blue line that is around everything? That is creating like your shadow. What we want to do is create shadows for each individual letter. And how you do that is you come over here into the welded offset and you uncheck that. And so now it looks like there is some lines that are crisscrossing here and here. It's okay if they are, but now it's going to be each individual letter versus like welded all together for this like huge offset, right? Okay, then what you want to do is up here at the very top in the slider bar, we are going to drag this down. I am going to do the smallest offset possible that creates the thickness of this, but what we don't want to lose is the scales inside of this font. So you see when I went down to 0.08, you see how we could see the inside of the scales a little bit? That's exactly what we want. Now those scales are really small. I don't want them to be that small. So we're gonna keep going down. At this point, instead of using that little circle, I'm just gonna come over here and I'm going to play with the numbers a little bit. So let's do 0.06 and press tab. You can see this like green bar that tracks over the top. That's Cricut Design Space thinking. So if you did not see a change right away, but you still see that green bar, it's because Cricut's still thinking. Sometimes it takes a while. The scales are now a little bit bigger, but not as big as what I would like it to be. So I'm just gonna keep going down until I get just a little bit thicker. And again, this number 0.03 might be a different number for you. So you're going to create your offsets just the way you want them. So whatever the number is for you, that's what you need to do. Don't go off of my numbers. Okay, when you have it the way that you like it, I like this thickness and it's gonna be hard to see. Let me zoom in. Okay, when we zoom in, what we see is that we have thicker lines. For me, those scales are a little bit thicker, but I didn't lose the entire characteristic of that font. I personally like this font. So what you're gonna do is making sure this button right here, the welded offsets, is still unchecked. And then we're gonna go into apply. Okay, for this next step, all I'm going to do is I'm gonna change this over into any color just so we don't delete what we already have done. So now that I've changed this over and just to any color, I'm gonna click out of that. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete this right here. And this is the part where I say like you can't change or edit the text. When you go over here and double click, there's no double clicking because it's not a text box anymore. It's an actual image. So that's why it's really key to make sure that your spelling is correct, just so you don't mess up here and then have to start all from the square one. I know there's certain cursives, like I have this one cursive. This font right here is one of my most favorite script fonts for like weddings and stuff like that, but it is so hard to cut really small. So doing the same steps as you did before, we're just gonna make sure that everything's spelled correctly. That's my name, I've spelled my name correctly. We're just gonna go over here into offset. And you see how we have that blue line and it's just outside of the name Ashley. If you want it thicker, we can make it thicker. If you want it not as thick, then you can, adjust those numbers. Now, with a name like this, when you cut this out, you want everything to be welded. If you don't, what will happen is you'll get all these like weird individually cut letters. So what you want to do for something like this, you want to make sure that this welded offsets is checked. Then when you go and press apply, what happens is do you see how everything is conjoined together as one versus something that looks like this? So I just created that offset using the unwelded check marks. And what happened is when we click out of that, do you see how this right here is its own field versus this right here? And if you go down to the one where we welded, it's all welded together. So what will happen is when you go to cut this, the bottom one will do one single outline pass. This one right here is going to want to cut the A individually from the S to the H to the L to the two E's. And so then you're going to get a font that looks not connected and there's going to be cut lines and everything. Okay, so I sure hope you found this helpful and that I taught you something new about customizing fonts to better fit your crafting needs. And remember, don't forget, put in the comments what shadow I should use for these mermaid letters. All right, y'all, I will see you later.